Welcome. I'm back, and today I'm going to talk to you about frankincense. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, here we go. Okay, so frankincense is sometimes called the king of oils. And the reason for that is it was originally first probably documented in the Bible. So it's actually found in the Bible. It was one of the gifts that the wise men brought was frankincense and myrrh. So it does date back then. It was not the essential oil that was brought then. Distillation happened much later in the history of time. But it's really interesting that this plant has been around for a long time. It comes from Somaliland. Pretty much all the frankincense in the world comes from Somaliland. This is a natural plant. It cannot be cultivated by people. So it grows on the side of a deserty mountain throughout this sort of rockish surface. And so we can't plant that and regrow it. So sustainability is a huge deal. This is one of the many very specific reasons why I use doTERRA. They have an initiative and an agreement with the governments in Somaliland about preserving and sustaining the plants and paying the workers a fair wage. They actually pay 10 times what they were being paid prior to doTERRA coming in and creating a relationship with their country. And all of the frankincense in the world comes from Somaliland, but doTERRA gets the first pick of the draw, I guess you could say, because of their relationship with the Somaliland government. They're also part of the initiative called the Calmado, which is an initiative by a doctor. I want to say her name is Anjanette DiCarlo, I think is her name, but I'm not entirely sure. You'll have to look it up. And she works on various projects over the years that are specific to preserving the frankincense plant. So it's really interesting. This is actually a very well-known issue in the aromatherapy world. So now that you have a little bit of info about frankincense, I'll explain to you how we get it. So what they do is they go along and they chip away, making very calculated cuts or dashes out of the bark of the frankincense tree. And then what happens is there's a resin that's created, and then the resin is distilled. If they do too many cuts or slashes, then the tree is at risk of dying. And since we can't cultivate it, that's a big deal. So when we underpay the farmers, or when we have what are sometimes called essential oil agents who interfere with the process and they come in trying to make money, and so they buy it for very cheap from the farmer and then they upsell it for a profit to the essential oil companies, we're at risk of damaging the sustainability of the frankincense and our ability to continue using it. It's also widely used in the perfume industry. So it's not just used in aromatherapy, it's used in the perfume industry. And so a lot of the adulteration and controversy does come out of that industry as well. So what do we use frankincense for in aromatherapy? So frankincense is great for killing pain. So I actually suffer from a rheumatic back disorder. I have what's known as ankylosing spondylitis, which means that my discs in my back have degenerated and they are slowly disappearing in time. On an x-ray, I look like I have the back of an 80-year-old. I'm only in my late 30s now, and it's been that way since I was not even a teenager, since I was in elementary school. So I've had some back trouble my whole life. Throughout my medical history, I've had doctors who have prescribed anti-inflammatory medications that ate away at my stomach and made it so that I actually can't take most medications anymore. And then since then I've kind of developed the autoimmune part of it, the ankylosing piece of it, I guess you could say, that causes digestive problems, and so now I can't really digest almost any types of medication. For those who can digest medications and take those anti-inflammatories, they're very strong. Like, they can still do damage to your body too. So it's just something to consider, that maybe if you can find a natural alternative that works first, it just might be better and healthier for your body anyways. So frankincense is actually the first oil that has ever worked on my back pain. So I actually had to apply it pretty religiously in a diluted fashion is how I like to do it, just so that I don't become sensitized to any of these amazing oils. I take all the proper safety precautions, and because I'm educated on the science and all that, so it just makes sense for me to use it appropriately. So I applied it every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day for about 3 months before I noticed that I was starting to cut back on some of the back pain. And about 6 months, I could stand and make dinner and do cleanup, which is a huge deal because I could never do cleanup before, and I could barely get through making dinner without being in excruciating pain in my back. So the pain-killing power of frankincense is absolutely amazing. And it's also an anti-inflammatory, so it works as an anti-inflammatory, but without eating your digestive system, like the alternatives did to me. It's also bactericidal. It's an expectorant, so that will help kind of bring up all of those like phlegmy, yucky bits inside of your chest. It's really great for wound healing, so most things that are resin-based essential oils will be really excellent for helping to heal, like your scars and cuts and such. You would need to use it in a really diluted fashion, and you need to be very aware of essential oils before you're applying them to wounds. But frankincense would be one of the best ones to start with. It's also very calming and emotionally balancing. It's an immunostimulant. Now, not to fear, most things that are immunostimulants tend to send people into bad reactions who have autoimmune issues. I've had very much the opposite effect. I've felt 100 times better using frankincense, okay? Because it's good for, it's good for just about everything, technically. Some of the ways that I like to use it, so it's actually good for preserving your youthful complexion, so it's good for the skin, so a lot of people like to add it to their skincare. When I have children who have a fever, I love to apply frankincense to the spine. I feel like the spine is sort of like a central section of our body with all of our nerve endings and stuff that kind of connect there, so it kind of helps it spread it out throughout the body. And what it does is, the intent is not to stop the child from having a fever. In fact, I don't believe in stopping the fever, because the fever is a sign that the body is fighting an infection. So what I like to do is use frankincense to assist the body in its immune response. So since it is already taking a lot of effort to fight off whatever the infection or negative thing invading the person's body, what frankincense will do is it will kind of just give their body a little bit of a boost in that immune system and help them out. So it doesn't really stop any of those types of things, in my opinion. It just aids the body in doing what it needs to already do naturally, just with a little boost, okay? And basically, I recommend frankincense as a driver. So usually when we have essential oils that work normally for something, let's say we get seasonal allergies, so we use like an allergy blend. And then we find that this one season it's really bad, or it worked for a little bit at the beginning, but then as we progress through the season, it's just not being as effective anymore. I like to think of frankincense as kind of like an oil booster. When we add oils in blends together, they work synergistically, and I find that when we pair it with frankincense, it just has this magical power of making that entire blend work that much better. So I don't know the exact science on why that works, but it seems to work hands down almost every time I've tried it. So it's really a very valuable tool to have in your essential oil medicine cabinet. It's also really great for attention and focus. So I have an autistic child, and I have a child who's borderline ADHD. And my husband has some focus trouble too. And we find that when you take the frankincense and you apply it to the brainstem, so that's at the back of the neck, right where kind of the hairline starts. So really you're going to put it up in the hairline. You're going to dilute it. So it's always nice to just add it to a roller bottle so it's ready to go. and we just apply it there. And we found that when we applied that before my son went to school, he was better able to focus while he was at school, and we were getting less complaints about him being distracted and struggling in school. And even he came home feeling a lot more calm. So this is really helpful. It does help bring down anxiety, and overall, it's a great oil for pretty much everything. So safety-wise, it's fairly safe as long as you're using it properly diluted. I can't recommend ingestion. That's something that you would have to work with somebody who's qualified and insured in aromatic medicine. I am not that person at the moment. That could change at some point, but it's a great oil to use aromatically. It is expensive, so I prefer to use it topically for most of my applications. And I try to use it sparingly, but in all honesty, it's an oil that I probably go through about 5 of these bottles a year because it is just that amazing. And we're a pretty big family. There's like 6 or 7 of us at any given time because I have 5 kids. So anyways, that's all I have for you on frankincense today. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know, and I would be happy to connect with you and answer everything that I possibly can and help you out with. Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.